Well, good morning, everyone. It is good to be with you on this first Sunday of the new year. Ready or not, here we are in 2025. I know that I am not alone in facing this new year with trepidation. There is the ongoing suffering in the Middle East and in far too many other places too. And there is the incoming presidential administration here at home and the harm that it promises to bring. My heart continues to be heavy for these and other threats to our planet, to our collective safety, and to our well-being. There are also worries that are up close and personal. Perhaps you are holding concerns for yourself or for people in your immediate family who have serious health issues. You or someone you love may be facing difficult decisions or an unwanted change, or grappling with loss and grief. If this is you, know that you are not alone and that you are held in love. There are plenty of weighty matters we each carry in our hearts, all of us, all of the time. The truth is, being human is hard. Hard because we are all both fiercely strong as well as tender-hearted. Hard because we are at the mercy of so much that is out of our control. Hard because we are fallible simply by the nature of our being. The truth of this can be discomforting. None of us like to make mistakes or to disappoint ourselves or others, yet we do, and often. It is a heavy load, this being human. It can help to remember that it isn't just you or just me. It's all of us. It helps to name this and know it is a shared experience. We can be our messy, human selves together and not pretend otherwise. As I've been reflecting on the challenging times we're living in, I've been reminding myself that our ancestors and others in the human family lived through hard times before, and they found ways to persevere. It helps to remember this. I've been wondering what in the coming days and months might help us to persevere. What might help us shoulder the heavy loads we each carry? What might speak to our fiercely strong yet tender hearts and offer us a bit of ease? When I saw that our ministry theme for the month of January is the practice of story, I smiled. A sense of relief came to me. Who doesn't love a good story? But our ministry theme is more than just story. It is the practice of story. The practice of story might help us find our way. We need to hear each other's stories. We need to have others hear our stories too. We also need to hear again, or for the first time, the timeless stories that speak to us across the ages and remind us of larger truths that help us make sense of who we are, whose we are, why we are here, and how to make sense of daily living in a world that can sometimes seem absurd. I believe stories, our own stories, the stories of the lives of others, offer us inspiration and hope and give us encouragement to persevere during difficult times. They can help us remember to connect with our humanity, with kindness, and with the larger love that we are part of and that holds us all, even when we forget. The story we heard earlier this morning told of a storyteller who reminded the community of the healing power in listening to and telling each other their stories. Like the storyteller, we each know stories that tell of times of joy and sorrow and triumph and loss. Think for a minute. What story inspires you or has left a lasting impression on you? You might have a story that easily jumps to mind. And you might want to ponder this question over the coming days and see what comes to you. Or talk with your friends and family and see what stories you share and which stories are waiting to be told. I've got a story for you. It's one of my favorites. Its powerful message is just as important today as it was the first time this story was ever shared. You've probably heard it before, but a good story is always worth hearing again. And it goes, and I'm looking at you. Jesus was asked by a man, "Who is my neighbor? Who do I love?" And Jesus answered by telling this story. A man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, and thieves came along. And they beat the man, and they stole his clothes, and they left him to die. A priest came down the road, and he saw the hurt man. He crossed to the other side of the road, and he went away. A Levite came down, and he saw the man, and he crossed to the other side of the road and went away. And a Samaritan came, and he saw the man, and his heart was full of love. He knelt down and he put bandages on the man's wounds, and he helped the man onto his donkey, and he took him to an inn, and he cared for him. And the next day he gave the innkeeper money, and he said, "Take care of this man. I will be back soon, and I will pay for anything he needs." Jesus then asked the man, "Who was a neighbor? Was it the priest or the Levite or the Samaritan?" And the man said, "It was the one who took care of the hurt man and showed him mercy." Jesus said, "Go and be like that Samaritan." This, of course, is a story from the Christian scriptures, Luke 10:25 through 37, and retold in a storybook Bible entitled The Peace Table. There are stories like the Good Samaritan around us everywhere. We find them in sacred texts from all faith traditions and from a variety of other sources. And as we move into the coming year, it will be good to recall the story of the Good Samaritan and other wisdom tales so that I can remember, so that you can remember, so that we can remember, and remind each other of our own ability to show up in the service of love again and again. You and I, we are the Good Samaritan. We're a Good Samaritan when we check in on our neighbor during a snowstorm to make sure they're okay. We're a Good Samaritan when we speak up when someone is putting down or threatening someone else. We're a Good Samaritan when we help others in big ways and in small, when we show mercy. Every time our actions are guided by love at the center, we embody the Good Samaritan. The storyteller in our first story this morning also taught that in addition to wisdom stories, we each have important stories of our own direct experience. Stories of when we've been hurt or excited, stories that teach of the redeeming power of love in our own lives, and stories that share wisdom about what to do when we are afraid. These lived experiences, our own stories, unfold daily in our lives. They are waiting for us to notice them. These stories are ones that we can return to again and again ourselves. And we can share our personal stories to inspire, remind, nurture, and nourish us all. I've got a story for you. Once, there was a little girl who loved getting letters in the mail. This was in the time before email, or texting, or video chats. It wasn't that long ago, but people didn't even have computers in their homes or cell phones. The little girl's grandparents lived far away from her. Some of you may remember that when you called people on the telephone long distance, it was very expensive. You were charged by the minute, and depending on the time of day you made your call, the charge was either a higher or lower amount. You remember that? Yeah. So, letter writing is how people who didn't live close enough to visit each other kept in touch. All through her childhood and even into young adulthood, the girl wrote and received letters from different people, including her grandmother on her mother's side, her great uncle on her father's side, both her grandparents on her father's side, and her childhood best friend who moved away in the 6th grade. All these letters she had received meant so much to the girl that she saved them, all in a box in her closet. It was a big box. There were many letters. The girl grew up and she went off to college, and then she moved away from home, and she continued to receive letters from her grandparents and now from her mom and dad as well. The girl, who was now a young woman, still loved getting letters, and she continued to save the letters she received. And by this time, since she'd been writing back and forth for so many years, her collection of saved letters filled a large box. She had hundreds of saved letters she had received from family and loved ones over the years. Time went by, and the woman didn't write or receive as many letters in the mail anymore. Her grandparents had aged and died. People now had computers and eventually cell phones and communicated with emails and calls and texts. But the woman still had her large box full of many years of correspondence. She stored it in her basement. She hadn't looked at the letters inside the box for a long time. She knew that the letters told many stories about the people who had written them and the girl and then woman she had been when she'd received them. And the woman knew she needed to do something with the box of letters, but honestly, she was a little overwhelmed by them. She wondered what feelings might come up if she read them now. She was sure there would be memories that would make her smile and probably laugh. But would the letters also bring up memories that would make her sad? Or remind her of things that she felt bad about? Would they make her miss even more the people who had written them and now were gone? The woman knew she had to do something with the letters. It wasn't right to leave them for someone else to figure out what to do with them. And then the woman had an idea. She would ask someone to be with her as she went through the letters. Someone who wouldn't mind the time it would take. Someone who would be interested in the stories that the letters told. Someone who would be patient and kind and serve as a witness for whatever unfolded from the stories. The woman knew the person she wanted to ask to read the letters with her. It was her sister. The woman's sister lived many states away, But it just so happened that the two had made plans to meet each other for sister time at a cozy house near Lake Michigan. The woman told her sister about the letters and asked if she would be willing to go through them with her. Her sister quickly said yes. And so during their sister time by the lake, they did. The letters were sorted into piles of who they'd been sent from and then arranged by date from oldest to newest. And the sisters sat by the fire and read the letters aloud to each other. There were many memories that came to them as they read, as well as gut-splitting laughter and also some tears. There were things that the woman felt sad about. There were things that, with the wisdom that comes from lived experience, she wished now that she had done differently then. After reading all the letters, the woman chose a few special ones to keep. These letters she would share with her own daughter, and perhaps someday her grandchildren. The letters she didn't keep, she put into recycling. The box that all the letters had been in was now empty, and the woman's heart and spirit felt lighter too. Through the reading of the letters and the special time with her sister as a witness, the woman felt that she had been given a great gift. She had been reminded of stories from her past that had helped shape her, and she had been reconnected to a great sense of love. You could even say that she felt reconnected to the larger love that holds us all. So ends our story. So I bet you figured out that the woman in the story is me. Here is a picture of me and my sister last April in Michigan. And a picture of my sister as we were going through the letters together. It was a big deal to read my letter collection and to open myself to the stories and memories. One regret that surfaced is that I never came out to my grandparents. I was too afraid. As I reread my grandmother's letters to me, I wish I had. In reading her words all these years later, I can see that she knew there was something important about me and my life that I wasn't sharing with her. She would have liked me to. I can see now that she would have supported and loved me, and I wish I had taken the risk then to be honest about my true self with her. I feel sad about this and the missed opportunity for an even closer connection between us. Rereading all the letters helped me realize how important connection and community were to me, even from a very young age. My sister saw this in the letters too, and she shared her amazement at the relationships that I had created with extended family across the miles. She named the support and love I had received from these beloveds throughout my growing up. I thank my sister for naming this and for being my witness. I share the story of my letter collection and the other stories in our service today to remind us all that in a world that so desperately needs us, let us keep showing up for each other. Let us continue to be generous with our offers of kindness and compassion and love for ourselves and for one another. Let us embody the larger love that holds us all. We can do this by listening, simply listening, yet listening deeply to the stories and the lived experiences of others, especially those most marginalized and oppressed. Not attempting to fix one another's perceived problems, simply listening, simply witnessing, simply embodying love. There is power in this beyond our understanding. I still love to send and receive letters, something that happens less and less with new, more immediate ways of communicating. And perhaps you do too. So today, as an act of sharing unconditional and abiding love, we have a special card writing station set up in the social hall. And the cards that we'll be writing will be sent to the organization Point of Pride, whose mission is to help the most vulnerable members of our community feel seen and supported through access to life-saving health and wellness services. The letters will be sent to transgender individuals affirming their worth and dignity, and to remind them that they are loved. While we don't know these people's individual stories, we can value and appreciate them for their courage to be their true and deepest selves. Their liberation is linked with ours. We have cards and suggested messages to include in them at the table, and everyone is invited to send a letter. Imagine receiving a letter that says, "You are enough, always." Or, "Be strong, be beautiful, be proud, be you." Or, "You are so loved, don't ever forget that." Or, "You are a gift to this world. Keep being you." I hope you will join me in sending a card and sharing the amazing power of love, the amazing power of your love. And may you know that you too are always enough, that you are held in the larger love that holds us all, and that your stories, your life, you matter. Amen, and blessed be.